Hello and welcome to Amigos IAS. I'm Adnan. In today's segment, we'll be discussing the recent Supreme Court judgment on the petitions challenging Forest Conservation Amendment Act 2023. So let's jump into this particular aspect. So as you can see here, first let us discuss what was Forest Conservation Act 1980. It was brought in order to arrest or halt the deforestation going on in India at that time. And that Forest Conservation Act provided protection for the forests. That means if you divert the forest land for non-forestry purposes, certain rules were made. And this act has been amended multiple times. But why last year's amendment is under question? Let us try to understand that, because it tried to give exemptions for many of the projects in forest areas. They are exempted from the provisions of the Forest Conservation Act. And one more thing, the objective of the act, of course, has been told that we want to increase the forest area in India, okay, or we want to conserve the forest, manage them in a sustainable manner. And they also changed the principle 1980 Act with some again Hindi and Sanskritized names. What is that? One, Samrakshan evam Samvardhan Adhiniyam. That means Samrakshan here means conservation, and also Samvardhan here means what? Augmentation of the forests. Now, this is what the government has told. The Parliament has amended the Principal Act, and let us see what is forest under the amended Act. British already passed Indian Forest Act 1927 because they wanted to commercially exploit forests, like for timber purposes, etc. For that purpose, they classified the forest, not for saving of the forest. Okay, whatever definition they gave, that is applicable even now also. And since October 25, 1980, when this Forest Conservation Act came into practice, and after that, whatever forest land was notified as forest, that will be considered as the forest land as per the Forest Conservation Amendment Act 2023. And what exemptions they have given? Mostly for the linear infrastructure. Government has provided exemption for following this criteria, that these will be exempted from any kind of permissions, and this Forest Conservation Act will not apply on these projects. What are those? As you can see, rail line or public road maintained by the government up to 0.1 hectares of land you can acquire to construct any kind of rail line or public road in the forest areas and within 100 kilometers of the international borders of India. Line of control, line of actual control, Pakistan and China, these borders up to 100 kilometers are exempted from any kind of clearances as per the amended act, guys. And government is saying because these are strategic linear projects of national importance and concerning national security. And third one is what? Security related infrastructure, if government is building in the forest, up to 10 hectares are exempted from the clearances. Okay. And last one is what? In left-wing extremism affected areas, government can sometimes establish facilities for the defense purposes, okay, for the people there. So up to 5 hectares here is exempted in the left-wing extremism areas. Now all these look good on the paper, but in reality, many times, not only for these purposes, for other purposes also, in the name of national security, government sometimes, diverts this forest for non-forest purposes. And this will shrink the area of the forest. That is the argument made by the petitioners in this case. And what else is permitted under the amended act, guys? Zoos and safaris will be established more and more inside the forest, which is again going to impact the forest area. Okay, that is one thing. Ecotourism facilities, management of forest, silviculture, or any other purposes. In all these things, government is going to permit all this inside the forest areas, and this act will not apply to these areas. That means again further dilution of the protection of forests. Petitioners have filed the argument in the court that petition in the court that this particular act, which was passed in August last year, has totally removed the protection for the forest areas in India. Why? The main purpose here is Supreme Court in T.N. Godavarman versus Union of India 1996 has given an important judgment, which is very landmark judgment, because Supreme Court has given a broad definition of forests. Generally, forests are notified by the government as protected forests or reserve forests, and also in government records, land records, sometimes forest areas recorded there. But apart from that, any other forest area as per the dictionary definition, having trees, vegetation, etc., should also get protection, but it is not having the protection. Supreme Court told that please give protection for that land also. Establish committees and panels to notify that area which is not, as per the government legal records, land records, have that forest also, at least around 28% of the forests of India. 1.99 lakh square kilometers of the forests of India are not having legal protection. So that is the big definition, broad definition of forest. Supreme Court is asking the governments to do, but they have not done it, guys. That is the problem also. Fine. And the government also has told the Supreme Court that, sir, last the act whatever we have, it does not allow us to even build toilets in the tribal areas. This is what the government has told in the court, but actually the argument is wrong here. Why? Because already we have Forest Rights Act 2006 in India, which overrides this Forest Conservation Act. That means we can build facilities for the tribals. Any kind of thing which improves the lives of tribals, let's say dispensaries, schools, hospitals, toilet facilities, any facilities for the tribals can be done in the forest areas, and Forest Conservation Act will not apply for them. So Section 3 of the Forest Rights Act allows central government to divert forest land. So why then amendment happened to the Forest Conservation Act? Because there was no problem in the beginning itself, guys. Hope you are following the point here. Okay, and what Supreme Court has told, already I discussed this particular slide, guys. That is, Supreme Court has told to use dictionary definition of forest as told by the Godavarman judgment. Okay, and which means it includes all the forest land which is notified or not notified by the government. All that considered as forest as per dictionary definition should have protection. That is what the court has told in this case. And now, what happens now? This is an interim judgment, which means what Supreme Court is going to give final judgment after a few months. As of now, Supreme Court has told all the states and union territories that whatever we have told in the Godavarman judgment, whatever the work has been done by the panels so far in India to properly classify the forest, to properly record the forest in India, give us the status report of that within 2 weeks. By March 31st, tell us what the committees have done so far, what kind of the progress has been happened so far on classifying the forests of India as per the dictionary definition of forest, guys. And by April 15th, in the Ministry of Environment and Forest website, you have to upload the details of this particular committee's reports. This is what Supreme Court has just now informed, guys, in the recent judgment. And Supreme Court also told that without our permission, don't establish any zoos or wildlife safaris in the forest areas. Because the current act, the amended act, allows the governments to establish zoos and wildlife safaris as per the Wildlife Protection Act 1972. But because already forests are shrinking, again, if you go and establish ecotourism, zoos, wildlife safaris, the area will be under threat. So unless and until Supreme Court gives permission, as of now, any government cannot establish zoos or any wildlife safaris, etc. So, and Supreme Court is expected to give the final judgment in July on this matter, guys. So I hope you understood what this particular issue is about, and how the amended act has diluted definition of the forest, and what Supreme Court has told in the T.N. Godavarman judgment, guys. So if you have any questions, please post in the comments. I'll come back with another explainer. Keep watching Amigos IAS. Thank you.